All right, let's get straight to it. You folks in the arts, audiovisual technology, and communications course are exploring leadership, and, well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yep.
Think of this as equipping your creative toolkit with some serious leadership know-how. We've got insights lined up from Simon Sinek, Jordan Peterson, and Leslie Hayes, three pretty distinct voices, each offering crucial perspectives on what it actually means to lead effectively. Our goal, to pull out the core ingredients of leadership from their ideas, things you can actually use to spot and, grow your own leadership abilities right now in your projects and teams.
Precisely. And it's a fantastic mix of ideas, actually. Sinek really gets into the why behind leadership, the purpose and connection that drive it.
Right.
Peterson offers a compelling look at the foundational character traits that make a leader. And Hayes brings a very hands-on personal story of how leadership evolves through empowering others. It's a rich landscape, really, for understanding what makes people effective in guiding and inspiring those around them.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with a concept from Simon Sinek that really flips the traditional idea of leadership on its head. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, that leadership isn't about a title or a corner office. It's a decision you make, a choice to look after the people around you. What stands out to you about that, and how might someone in, say, a group film project or maybe a design team apply that idea even if they're not officially in charge?
Yeah. What's key here is that Sinek kind of democratizes leadership, right? It's not a position you wait to be appointed to. It's about the actions you take.
Right, the action.
So in a group project, maybe the designated director is focused on the overall vision, sure, but someone else might step up to make sure everyone understands their tasks and, has the resources they need.
Yeah.
That person is demonstrating leadership right there just by looking out for the well-being and efficiency of the team. It's about seeing a need and taking initiative to meet it, regardless of your formal role.
Exactly. And Sinek talks about accountability as being a balanced equation. Taking the praise when things go well, sure, but also, crucially, owning up when things don't. We've all been in situations where a project hits a snag. Why is that willingness to take responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable, so vital for someone who wants to be seen as a leader?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, accountability is really the bedrock of trust. When someone, especially someone in a guiding role, admits their part in a setback, it creates an environment where mistakes are seen as opportunities for learning, not, grounds for blame.
No finger pointing.
Right. Sinek mentions those in finance who pointed fingers when things collapsed. That just destroys team cohesion. True leadership involves the maturity to analyze what went wrong and learn from it, which encourages others to be equally honest and fosters a much more resilient and ultimately effective team dynamic. Now, Sinek also introduces this idea of the elite warrior, which, might sound a bit intense, but his point is that the most effective individuals are those who actually excel at helping the people around them succeed. It's not about being the star player who hoards all the glory,
Right.
How does that reframe our understanding of what makes someone a strong and influential figure within a group?
Well, this raises an important question about how we define achievement, doesn't it? Sinek shifts the focus from just individual brilliance to collective success. The elite warrior in this context isn't the one with the sharpest sword, metaphorically speaking, but the one who makes sure everyone else has what they need to fight effectively together. In your creative fields, this might mean a skilled editor offering tips to a less experienced peer.
Oh yeah, good example.
Or a strong cinematographer helping the lighting crew understand the director's vision better. By focusing on enabling others, you actually elevate the entire team's performance. And that collective strength ultimately leads to greater success for everyone involved. It's not zero-sum. That ties in really nicely with his point about the importance of both offering and accepting help. He observes that people often genuinely want to help, but if you're always projecting this image of having everything perfectly under control, they might hesitate to step in. There's a certain vulnerability in admitting you need assistance, isn't there?
Totally.
How can showing that vulnerability actually be a sign of strength for a leader?
Well, what's fascinating here is the human element, right? When you're open about a challenge you're facing, it allows others to connect with you on a more personal level and feel valued for their potential contributions. It breaks down those kind of hierarchical barriers that can stifle collaboration.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sinek is spot on. Many people genuinely enjoy helping others. So by asking for support, you're not displaying weakness. You're actually creating an opportunity for connection and strengthening the bonds within the group. It also sets a precedent, making it more acceptable for others to seek help when they need it, which fosters a more supportive environment overall.
This leads us directly to another powerful piece of advice from Sinek. Be the last to speak. In a world where the loudest voices often seem to dominate, this feels almost counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It really does.
What are the key benefits he sees in deliberately holding back your own opinion and allowing others to share their thoughts first?
Well, there are two really significant advantages to this approach. First, as Sinek highlights, it makes everyone else feel heard and valued. Simple but powerful. When team members know their perspectives will actually be considered before the leader weighs in, they are much more likely to be engaged and contribute their best ideas.
Hmm.
And second, by actively listening to everyone else first, you gain a much richer and more comprehensive understanding of the situation before you formulate your own opinion. You hear different viewpoints, you might uncover unexpected insights, and you can then develop a more informed and nuanced response. It's a powerful exercise in active listening and, frankly, intellectual humility.
And it's not just about passively waiting for your turn to talk, right? Sinek emphasizes the importance of asking clarifying questions, really digging into why someone holds a particular viewpoint, what experiences or reasoning informs their perspective. That's a much deeper level of engagement than just hearing the words they're saying.
Exactly. It's about practicing genuine empathy and seeking to understand the underlying motivations and assumptions behind someone's contribution. This deeper level of understanding fosters much more effective communication, reduces the chances of misunderstandings, and paves the way for more creative and collaborative problem solving. It moves beyond just surface level agreement or disagreement to a true engagement with diverse ways of thinking.
Now, as you start to gain recognition or achieve success in any field, Sinek points out that people will often begin to treat you differently. Maybe opportunities open up more easily, you might receive preferential treatment. But he cautions that these perks are usually tied to the position you hold, not really to you as an individual. He shares that memorable image of General Nordy Schwartz carrying his own luggage after leaving his high-ranking role. Why is holding on to that sense of humility and gratitude so crucial for effective leaders?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture again, it's about maintaining perspective and remembering that at your core, you are equal to everyone else. The trappings of a leadership position can create a dangerous sense of separation and entitlement,
Yeah, easily done.
which can quickly alienate you from the people you are meant to be guiding and inspiring. By remaining humble and grateful, you stay grounded, you foster genuine connections, and you demonstrate that you value the people you work with for who they are, not just for what they can do for you or the position you hold. It reinforces the idea that true leadership is about service, not just about elevating your own status.
Okay, now let's delve into Sinek's well-known golden circle. Why, how, what? He argues that while most people tend to communicate from the outside, starting with what they do, then maybe how their different truly inspiring leaders communicate in the reverse order, beginning with their why.
The core.
What exactly does he mean by why, and why does he believe it has such a powerful impact?
The why, according to Sinek, is your fundamental purpose, your core cause, your deepest belief. It's the driving force behind your actions, whether you're an individual, an organization, or, a creative project.
Right.
It goes beyond simply making a product or achieving a goal. It's about the reason why you do what you do. Sinek argues that communicating this why first speaks directly to the limbic brain, the part of our brain that governs emotions, trust, loyalty, and ultimately decision-making. People connect with the why on an emotional and intuitive level.
He famously uses Apple as an example, contrasting a typical tech company marketing message that would focus on what their products are, with Apple's messaging that consistently starts with their why, their belief in challenging the status quo and empowering individual creativity.
Exactly.
Can you elaborate on why that why is so much more compelling and inspiring than just listing features and specifications?
Well, a traditional what message, like we make great computers that are easy to use, appeals to the rational mind, sure. But it doesn't necessarily ignite any passion, does it?
Not really, no.
Apple's why, their belief in thinking differently, taps into a deeper human desire for innovation and individuality. The how, their user-friendly design, elegant technology, and the what, their computers, phones, tablets, then become tangible evidence of that core belief. People don't just buy Apple products for their functionality. They buy into the idea that they are part of a movement that challenges conventions. Think about your own creative work. What's the underlying message or feeling you want to evoke? That's your why.
And he even connects this to the actual biology of the brain, explaining how that why message resonates with the limbic brain, which handles those gut feelings and decisions that aren't always based on pure logic. The what, on the other hand, is processed by the neocortex, the more rational and analytical part of our brain.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating link between emotion, inspiration, and how we process information.
Exactly. When you articulate your why, you're speaking directly to the part of the brain that drives behavior and fosters those feelings of trust and connection. People might understand the what on a rational level. They might see the features of a film editing software, for example. But it's the why, perhaps the desire to tell powerful stories and give voice to underrepresented communities, that truly motivates them to embrace it and feel a sense of purpose in using it. It's that feeling of resonance, of shared values, that drives action.
So the goal as a leader isn't necessarily to try and appeal to everyone who might theoretically benefit from what you're offering, but rather to connect deeply with those who share your fundamental beliefs.
That's the core of it, yeah.
He uses the contrasting stories of the Wright brothers, driven by their passionate belief in making flight a reality, versus Samuel Pierpont Langley, who seemed more motivated by external factors like fame and financial reward. That's a really powerful illustration of the driving force of purpose.
It perfectly highlights the difference between being driven by intrinsic motivation, a deep-seated belief, versus extrinsic motivation, external rewards. The Wright brothers faced countless setbacks, right? But their unwavering belief in the possibility of flight kept them going.
Mm.
Langley focused on being the first and gaining recognition, while he gave up when immediate success eluded him. When you lead with a strong why, you attract individuals who are equally passionate about your cause, and that shared belief fuels resilience and dedication within the team. It's magnetic.
And this naturally leads into the law of diffusion of innovation, the different categories of adopters, from the early innovators all the way to the laggards. Sinek argues that to reach that critical mass for widespread adoption of an idea or a product, you first need to connect with those innovators and early adopters who are primarily driven by that why, that core belief.
Precisely. These early adopters aren't necessarily buying the fully refined product or the universally accepted idea. They're buying into the potential, the vision, the why. They're willing to take a chance because they align with the fundamental principles behind it.
Right, like lining up for the first iPhone.
Exactly. Think about early adopters of new filmmaking technologies or groundbreaking artistic styles. They're often driven by a belief in pushing boundaries and exploring new forms of expression, even before those forms are widely understood or accepted. They get the why.
He contrasts this with TiVo, a device that was arguably technologically superior, but in Sinek's view, focused too much on the what it did, pause live TV, skip commercials, rather than connecting with a deeper why.
Yeah, they miss the emotional hook.
Then he brings in the incredibly powerful example of Martin Luther King Jr., who didn't just outline a political plan, he articulated his deeply held beliefs with the iconic I Have a Dream speech. That really underscores the transformative power of leading with why.
Oh, absolutely. King didn't deliver the I have a detailed policy proposal speech, did he? He delivered the I have a dream speech.
Exactly.
He articulated a compelling vision rooted in his profound beliefs about justice and equality, and people who shared those beliefs were moved to join his movement. They weren't just following a set of instructions, they were rallying around a cause they deeply believed in. This powerfully illustrates that true leadership inspires action through shared values and a compelling vision of the future.
Now, let's shift our focus slightly
Hmm.
and consider the perspective of Jordan Peterson, who emphasizes that leadership is fundamentally characterological. What does he mean by that, and what specific aspects of character does he see as essential for effective leadership?
Well, Peterson argues that at its core, effective leadership isn't just about having a charismatic personality or mastering specific management techniques. Instead, it's deeply rooted in the fundamental character of the individual. He stresses the importance of knowing your own direction, being able to articulate that vision clearly and honestly, and, crucially, being trustworthy, consistently acting in accordance with your word. He points to conscientiousness, that personality trait associated with being organized, responsible, diligent, as a strong predictor of long-term success and a cornerstone of that essential trustworthiness.
He even makes the interesting point that the development of this kind of character is more significant than factors like birth order, which is something people often consider, right?
Yeah, he pushes back on that idea.
And he brings up the biblical story of Abraham negotiating for Sodom and Gomorrah, based on the number of admirable people within the city.
Yeah.
What's the key insight we can draw from that story in the context of leadership and character?
The way Peterson interprets that story suggests that even a relatively small number of individuals who possess strong moral character and integrity can have a profound positive influence on a larger group or even an entire society. It underscores the potent impact of unwavering principles and ethical conviction.
Hmm.
He also connects this to the idea of having firm personal convictions, knowing what you stand for so that you aren't easily swayed by external pressures or paralyzed by self-doubt. A well-developed character provides a stable and reliable foundation upon which effective leadership can be built. It gives you an anchor.
Finally, let's turn our attention to Leslie Hayes and her concept of what she calls transforming transformational leadership, from a focus on leading you to a focus on leading me. She shares some really relatable, almost humorous anecdotes about fridge magnets that hinted at a potentially overbearing early leadership style.
Yeah, those were funny. Leslie away and I'm not bossy.
Right. What was the fundamental shift in her understanding of leadership that led to this evolution for her?
Hayes' journey is really about moving from a mindset of I have to be in control and direct everything to one of empowering and trusting her team. She realized that true leadership isn't about having all the answers or micromanaging every detail.
Hmm.
A pivotal moment for her was trusting her staff with the care of her own children, which made her recognize the immense capability and responsibility they were capable of handling. The shift was from, I can do it all myself, to we can achieve this together, and ultimately to you have the ability to excel. It's about recognizing the inherent talent and potential within your team and creating the space for them to thrive. Letting go a bit.
So the leader's role, in Hayes' evolved perspective, shifts from being the primary director to being more of a guide who holds the why, that overarching purpose and vision, while empowering the team members to take ownership of the how, the specific strategies and execution. That requires a significant leap of faith and trust, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Hayes emphasizes that building a high-performing team isn't about constantly telling people what to do, but about fostering an environment of mutual respect and trust. She actually echoes Sinek's emphasis on the why as the leader's core responsibility, setting the clear direction and purpose, while then granting the team the autonomy and responsibility to figure out the most effective ways to achieve those goals. It's about valuing the diverse skills and perspectives within the group and fostering a truly collaborative environment where everyone feels empowered to contribute their best work.
And she shares some very practical leadership behaviors that emerge from this fundamental shift in her approach, like actively building a trusting environment that encourages open and honest communication,
Crucial.
fostering a customer-centric culture where every team member feels responsible for the customer experience, and even enabling team members to set their own accountabilities and define how they will contribute. It's less about top-down direction and more about distributed ownership and empowerment, it sounds like.
Precisely. It's about prioritizing active listening over constant talking, asking insightful questions rather than always providing the answers, and having the wisdom to know when to step forward and provide support during challenging times. And equally importantly, when to step back and allow others to take the lead and receive recognition for their successes. She also underscores the critical role of self-awareness, understanding, and managing your own thoughts and emotions as a leader. Ultimately, her message is about leading authentically from your own sense of purpose, that deep-seated feeling that drives you, because that genuine passion is what truly inspires others to follow.
So, as we bring this deep dive into leadership to a close, looking at these diverse perspectives from Sinek, Peterson, and Hayes, some really clear and consistent themes emerge, don't they?
They really do.
At its heart, effective leadership appears to be about influence and connection, driven by a clear and compelling sense of purpose and built on a strong foundation of trust and unwavering character.
That's an excellent summary. Whether we're talking about Sinek's emphasis on the power of why, Peterson's focus on the bedrock of character, or Hayes' journey towards empowering others, the underlying message is consistent. True leadership transcends mere authority or a formal title. It's about inspiring and guiding those around you through shared values, personal integrity, and a genuine belief in a common goal.
And for all of you in the arts, audiovisual technology, and communications course who are listening, it's important to remember that leadership isn't some abstract concept reserved for CEOs or historical figures. It's about how you collaborate on your film sets, how you contribute to your design teams, how you engage in your audio projects.
Yeah, it's everyday stuff.
It's about the initiative you take, the responsibility you embrace, and the way you support your fellow creators.
Which brings us to a crucial point for you to consider. As you reflect on the ideas we've explored today, which of these leadership characteristics, the clarity of purpose, the strength of character, the ability to empower others, which one resonates most strongly with you right now?
Good question to mull over.
And how can you actively begin to cultivate those qualities in your daily interactions, both within your coursework and, beyond the classroom? Start by thinking about the why behind your own creative endeavors and the kind of leader you aspire to be. That's the starting point of your own leadership journey.